you arrive on the scene of an emergency, you are trained to be calm, alert, and observant. In the midst of a chaos, you often see things that others don't. But what if an older or disabled adult is involved? Do you know the signs of abuse, neglect, exploitation, and how to respond to them? They are more common than you might think. And adult abuse and neglect affects adults in all age groups, ethnicities, and income brackets.
This video will help you, the first responder, understand what is considered abuse, neglect, and exploitation. You'll also learn what the signs are so that when you are on the scene, you can evaluate the situation and determine if intervention is needed.
Abuse is the willful infliction of physical pain, injury, mental anguish, unreasonable confinement, or willful deprivation by a caretaker of services that are necessary to maintain mental health or physical health. Caretakers are usually relatives, friends, or someone who has been hired to provide that care.
It isn't always easy to know whether an injury is caused by an accident or willfully caused by another person. Here are some good common sense signs of abuse. Unusual or unexplained bruises, welts, fractures or burns in various stages of healing or in the shape of an object, such as a rope, a belt, restraints, or maybe an electric burner. Bed sores, weight loss, or dry skin and lips. Clothing that is inappropriate for the temperature and weather conditions. Inadequate shelter or medical care. And any deliberate confinement of an adult in a dangerous environment.
Physical abuse and mental distress often go hand in hand. How does the older or disabled adult react when you ask questions? Does he or she maintain eye contact or display hesitation in answering your questions? What is the relationship between the adult and the caretaker? Does the caretaker seem overly stressed and impatient with the adult? Does the adult withdraw or display fear of that caretaker? Is he or she hesitant to talk openly or acting suspicious or paranoid? These all could be signs of abuse.
Caretaker neglect happens when the caretaker fails to provide services necessary to avoid physical harm or mental anguish and to maintain mental health of the older or disabled adult. Sometimes caretakers fail to meet these basic needs because they lack the capacity to take care of someone else and require a caretaker themselves.
Some of the signs can be pretty obvious. You might see somebody who's very underweight, who has sores on their skin. You can look for poor personal hygiene, particularly if the person has soiled clothing, or you see soiled bed sheets, or even bed sores. Look around to see if there's food in the house, and is that food something that that person can eat? Because sometimes you've got cans, but the person can't open the cans, or they can't eat what's available to them. Another major sign is somebody who's being left alone, somebody who needs supervision, who may be locked in the house or left alone for long periods of time. Not getting medical care, or not getting prescriptions filled, or having somebody make sure that you're taking your medications is another sign. Some of the more subtle signs might be the person who's confused about who is taking care of them or helping them out, or someone who is reluctant to talk to you, won't make eye contact, and particularly won't talk in front of the caregiver.
Being a caretaker is a big responsibility. Not everyone is capable of taking on this responsibility or have the knowledge of available resources to help them in this role. Size up the situation by paying close attention to not just the adult, but the caretaker as well. Are they up for the task of providing day-to-day care for the adult? Do they have any resources or services in the home to help them?
Neglect is commonly misunderstood. Yes, there are times when a caretaker willfully fails to adequately care for an adult, but it is more common that the caretaker, because of age, disability, or illness, has lost the capacity to care for themselves, much less another adult. Adults who live alone run the risk of self-neglect. That is, when an older or disabled adult who lives alone or has no caretaker loses the ability to take care of his or her own mental or physical health.
Some signs and indication that a person is being self-neglecting are a person may forget to light or turn off the stove while preparing meals. A person may be found wandering in the community and unable to get home. A person may forget to cook, eat, bathe, or dress him or herself. A person may be unsafe in their environment due to clutter because they're a hoarder. A person may look very thin and dehydrated because they've lost weight. A person may be found causing small fires by leaving a pot on the stove. A person may be unable to communicate his or her needs due to Alzheimer's, dementia, or either a traumatic brain injury. And a person may be taking their medications wrong or not taking them as the doctor prescribed, and that can cause weakness, confusion, dizziness. I feel that it's very, very important that our family and our friends and our neighbors look out and look in on our older and disabled adults to ensure their safety and well-being in the community.
Isolation is the #1 cause of self-neglect. Family, friends, neighbors can help by checking in on the adult regularly, and if possible, getting the adult out of the house from time to time. Churches, senior centers, and family visits can help keep an older or disabled adult engaged, alert, and fend off depression.
Unfortunately, older and disabled adults are common targets for people who stand to gain from having access to their resources. Exploitation is the illegal or improper use of the older or disabled adult or their resources for another's profit or advantage. Exploitation is often committed by someone the adult depends on, a caregiver, a friend, or a relative.
Some common signs of exploitation would involve any type of deceit, coercion, or treachery used against the older adult or disabled adult to gain for one's own personal interest out of their assets. You might want to look for a difference in assets and lifestyle, unexplained transactions from the bank account, charging them a large amount of money for a task like running around the corner for groceries and charging them $50, inappropriate sexual activity when the older adult or disabled adult is not able to give consent. So basically exploitation would be exploiting their assets, resources for one's own gain.
Whether it's abuse, neglect, or exploitation, you have a duty to report your suspicions to the Department of Social Services. In fact, North Carolina general statutes require that anyone with suspicions report their concerns to the Department of Social Services. And when you call, please try to provide the following information: the adult's name, their address and age, the caretaker's name, a detailed list of signs of suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation, a detailed description of the situation, a detailed description of the adult's mental and physical condition and any known diagnoses, names of other people, neighbors, friends who might be able to provide valuable information, and any other relevant information related to the case.
Remember, it isn't always easy to determine whether an older or disabled adult has been abused, neglected, or exploited. As a first responder, you sometimes have to rely on your gut instincts to determine whether or not a situation requires intervention.
Now that you have some knowledge of adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation, you're better equipped to recognize a situation that needs to be referred to Adult Protective Services. If you have any suspicion that an older or disabled adult might be abused, neglected, or exploited, notify the Department of Social Services. Once you make your call, a social worker will review the situation with you and determine whether the adult needs assistance or protection.
Every day we come to work, we could find ourselves as a first responder who can make a difference. You're there and you care. If you see something you're not sure about, call the CARE line at 704-336-CARE. That's 704-336-2273 to make a report.